Got it all. This is my Rosebery 2-horse hit and miss engine, as my wife called it, the hissy fit. So this is an engine I picked up a few years ago that was in a pretty roped out condition. So my plan was not to do a full restore, but to try and keep it in as much of its original condition as I could. So I built the transporter around the actual floorboards that were that it was cut out of, and still got some of the nails sticking out of it. So I tried to keep it as it was cut out of the floorboards where it served its time. And when I got this engine, it was covered in sheep's wool and lanolin, very, very thick. So it was used somewhere, I would assume, in a shearing shed or some wool processing area. Hence the wool and the lanolin all over it. As I said, it's a 2 horsepower Rosebery. I've got some information on it. It's was first put on the dyno on October the 1st, 1926, and it pulled 2.8 horse on that dyno. So as far as reconditioning goes, I've given the bore a hone. It's badly scored, so I've just honed that up. I've left that as it is. It's got a bit of blowback on it. I've kept the original valves. Well, they probably weren't original, but I've kept the valves in it that I got to it. The exhaust valve is pretty roached out, but I've kept it. I've re-lapped them all, so they're setting quite well. There's no gib head key on this, so I just had to make up a starter handle just to kick it over. So I knocked that up and mounted that onto a new keyway. The governing system was just totally smashed off. They'd had it sort of locked in one position with some fencing wire and other bits and pieces. So that's all off, and I've got that going pretty well. The Nagy's a Lucas, one of the RS1s. As you can see, when the old one's cacked itself, they've put a replacement on and just used a bit of fencing sheet metal or a bit of roofing sheet metal just to make up a strap to hold that in place, because the mounting holes underneath didn't match. So that's what holds it on. And the other interesting thing is on this little cam arm here, this little one here, the bronze slipper's missing, and what that actually done is wrapped a bit of tin sheet around it, and either a bit of white metal or a bit of solder that was put up underneath, and that gave the bearing surface onto the governing cam. Now this is smashed off, and it has been moving around fairly loosely on that bit of iron there, that bit of roofing iron that's wrapped around the arm, and it was playing a bit of havoc with the governing system. So I'm going to have to make up a new little bronze slipper for this. So that's the little job we're going to do today. We'll see how that goes. Other refurbs were I recast or repoured the white metal bearings in here and scraped them back. On the crank here, on the crank arm here, she's really badly concaved. So I haven't built that up and machined that back. I've left it as it is, and I've just matched the white metal to that, so there's a bit of scraping, a bit of filing to get that sort of blued up and matching. So look for what the work it's going to be doing now. It's not going to worry it at all, and it runs quite well. It's got a nice little beat to it when it does go. So, but I've got to sort this little problem out on this cam arm. So the material we're going to use is a bit of that's off an old runner riser I used obviously years ago when I was doing some casting. This is LG2. This is an alloy I make up myself, so it's basically 85% copper, 5% lead, 5% zinc, and 5% tin. So this is stuff I used to make up when I was running my own foundry. So we're going to use a little bit of that to make up that new slipper. It's going to be fairly basic. It's just going to be a shaped slipper that'll fit in there. I'll just drill and tap it so maybe an M5 or something like that. I want to use a round head screw. I never had hexagon headed slot screws or anything like that on this sort of setup, so I'll try and keep it looking as original as I can anyway. But that's the show. Alrighty, so I'm going to strip this this arm out, and we'll see how we're going to strip it out anyway, and we'll come back in a minute. Righto, so I'm just going to knock the pin out of this governor lever. There's something I like about design when people are thinking. You can actually see that they've cast into the gear here a little window, so you can actually get access through with a pin punch to be able to knock that pin out to get that little lever arm out. And so many times these days you work in equipment where the engineer or the designer just hasn't thought about how is something going to be maintained, how's it going to be stripped down in situ. You know, fantastic when you're in a beautiful workshop and you've got tons of room all the way around it. But when you actually get onto a site and you've got to pull something down, and sometimes it's an absolute nightmare trying to work it out. So these little things here, they're so simple to put in if you have a little bit of forethought. So I'm just going to knock that pin through. As far as it needs to go. I'm just going to take our arm out. Alright, so that's our arm out, and you can see where that little bearing material there was melted into place the way it went. So as I said, we'll take all this off. I'm going to make up a bronze slipper to go in there. So I'll strip that down and see how we go. Now this bronze slipper that we're going to make up out of this material, we'll have a look at it. I'll cut it by hand, we'll file it up and see how we go. We'll square it up, and we might even just shape it up the old fashioned way with hacksaws and files, and we'll drill a hole, tap it, and fit it onto the governor arm. We'll see how we go. Alright, so we'll just cut a slither of this off. I think this is going to be around about 5mm I'll start with. I'll cut that slither off using my bandsaw. I'll just square this up first. And it was only a week ago I replaced all the bearings on this and realigned everything, and it's cutting dead true now, so it's doing a great job. This will be the most worked, useful machine I would have in my workshop, this bandsaw. It just saves so much time and energy. If you've got a bit of a workshop, really consider getting one. It just makes life so much simpler. So I'll true that up, and we'll cut off a roughly a 5mm slither, and we'll start shaping it up. Rightio, we're back. I've taken that bit of sheet metal or tin that was wrapped around the arm that had the silver solder, or the solder or white metal as the bearing surface, and it's quite rough, so I'm just going to give that a lick up, clean that up, and then we'll go ahead and make up this little bronze slipper. So I've roughly put it in by eye. It's pretty good, I think. I've done it by eye, so just to clean up to give us a nice surface for that slipper to bolt onto, and we'll see how we go. Check and make sure it's done. I wasn't sure. Alright, let's get into it. Gives it a nice surface to bear on. That's cleaned up, probably taken off about, just over 1/4 mil I reckon. And yeah, I know I hadn't used the machine for a while. I turned it on and I got sprayed with oil out of the quill. So, alright, that gives us a surface to work on. We'll start looking at this little bronze slipper and we'll see where we go. Okay, I'm going to chat a little bit. I'm going to stick it up in the mill. Stock's got to come out 14 mil by 20 mil is what we're going to machine down to. So we'll give them a lick across. We'll square that up, flip it over, and clean up the other face, and then we'll knock it off to length. So I tell you, it's a real shame to have to put this on. I thought that was a really eloquent solution. You know, you can imagine these blokes out in the middle of nowhere in a shearing shed. The old hit and miss driving the gears. She's packed it in. They've had to think on their feet, how are we going to fix this? You know, we're not getting paid, she's not running, let's get it sorted. And to come up with these sorts of solution with 6-inch nails, bits of fencing wire, bits of 10 sheet, whatever they could find to get the thing going again. And you know, that sort of ingenuity is really missing these days. But what an eloquent solution, and like I said, it's a shame to put this on, but anyway, we want to get it going again. So we'll clean him up. Touch more and flip him over. Let's get a file. I'll take the dags off that, flip it over, and we'll clean up the other face, and we'll do the 2 ends, and there we go. When it's not square, it'll just touch on one edge. I'm not going to get quite the 14mm, I'll get the 15mm, so I just need to raise this up a little bit further. So I'm just going to change the stacking arrangement for the parallels, and we'll just reset and we'll bring it up. Alright, last cut. That'll be super accurate. For around 14. It's a little bit forward, it's not going to hurt me too much, but yeah. $14.05. That's close enough for what we want. So we'll set this up square, and we'll give the face a bit of a lick and bring that back to about 20mm. So I'll go ahead and get this back in, get him squared up, and get my lick off. Alright, so I've got this back in the vice around 90 degrees, and I just use my little tiny, I call it a thumb square, but we square it up with that, we'll lick it over, flip it over, and then bring that down to the 20mm. Alright, that's cleaned up quite well. Knock the burrs off it, give it a clean up, find out where we're at with length, and then finish it off. Should have a smaller file for this, shouldn't I? Set it down that parallel. And we'll give that up a lick. Have our length this and finish it off there. See what I'm missing, my little bench behind me to put all my tools on. So I'm glad to get this workshop back together after I finish this slab lifting. I'm happy with that. Let's just see how we are at length. Right, so I'll call that 23.4, it's 23.45, 23.45, so we've got 3.4 to take off. Set him up. There. It's not like a bit of a cocker there, so we'll Just take it easy. Popped up there like that, I don't want to have it flipping out. I'm still getting flipped with oil here. Clear that out. This way the cutter's pushing back into the fixed jaw. Okay, so we've got this basically finished off. I've just clamped this to the arm and just use a transfer punch and just punch through a mark so that I can get a position for the drill. So I'm just going to drill through this and then we're going to tap it out and fall. Now, my drill's in a fairly awkward position at the moment. As I mentioned, I've got stuff moved all over the place to do this work on my slab. Load and plugged in. Oh, it's plugged in, but it's not on. Reach out. Right. I'm going to go all the way through on that. Doesn't need to. Just find it straight up. I'll tap into that. I don't want to put a full thread into this. I want the screw as it goes in to bite a little bit, so there's no way it's going to loosen off with any vibration when the engine is running. So I'll go and tap those out now, and we'll put it together, and we'll see how we go. All right, well, that's our repair done. I hate seeing shiny screws on old equipment, but I guess it's going to rust up. So what I'll do is I'll put this back together and we'll see if we can get the thing to miss rather than just hit this governor working properly. Alright, well, hopefully I'll see you back in a moment when we've got it kicking over. Well, we won't be kicking it off just yet. I was just taking the old hit and miss out to the backyard into the lawn to kick it off, and hit a few bumps and pushed and pulled a bit, and the main steering pin, which is welded on just here, back into there, is just snapped off. So see the bloke who welded it up the sack. And that's me. Alright, so I spent a couple of minutes. I'll cut this off. Big 45 on that, and weld it back in again and put it back together. So a little bit of running repair, we'll get that sorted out, and see what that's done. Right. Well, hopefully that's going to hold. Right. To the undersides and we're done. Oh, this shear's running as sweet as a nut. Hitting and missing. Down there our new little shoe doing its job. Never get bored watching these things, they're great. Very, very simple. Tens of thousands of these were made back in the early 20th century. Absolutely fantastic. Looks as rough as bags, but it still runs well. They're testing it with the blokes who built these things. Homemade muffler on there to keep things an awful lot quieter. I like the clamshell mufflers better, they give a nice spark when they're going, but not exactly neighbour friendly, so I built that one to quieten it right down while I'm running it in the backyard. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's our repair at the front end all finished, so 45 minutes I didn't expect to spend, but anyway, it's all done. Alright, we'll leave it there, we'll call this done. Thanks for watching.